The sound of rustling leaves drew Luke's attention away from his usual patrol routine. As a park ranger in the wild expanses surrounding Missoula, Montana, he had grown accustomed to the whispers of the wind and the subtlety of nature's clues. But this sound felt different, urgent somehow. He stepped off the well-trodden path, following an instinct that pulled him deeper into the thickets of pine and fir. He could almost feel the forest holding its breath, the air thick with anticipation. Sunlight filtered through the branches, casting a dappled pattern on the ground, but Luke's gaze was focused ahead, zeroing in on the source of the disturbance. His heart quickened. It was not often something disrupted the serene rhythm of his daily patrol. As he ventured further, the familiar scents of pine and earth began to mix with something unexpected, a faint, enticing aroma. It was strange to find anything here, especially something that smelled of food. He pushed a branch aside, revealing a small clearing. It was there, nestled against a jagged rock face, that he spotted it. A cooler, pristine and out of place amidst the rugged terrain. The hinges were rusty, the plastic faded from the sun, but it was clear that the cooler had been opened recently. Luke approached cautiously, the smell of fresh food wafted up to him, a stark contrast to the earthy scents surrounding him. Sandwiches wrapped neatly in plastic, bright red apples, and bottles of water sat inside, untouched by wildlife. His mind raced. Who had left this here? There were no signs of a trail, no footprints disturbing the underbrush. This food had been placed here deliberately, as if waiting for someone who shouldn't be seen. He felt a chill run down his spine, an unsettling curiosity igniting within him. Glancing around, he scanned the area for any signs of life. Nothing. But the forest held secrets, and he had always been one to listen closely to the stories it told. The stillness felt heavy, pregnant with meaning. Taking a step back, he noticed something. A broken branch, a faint scuff mark on the ground, leading away from the cooler into the shadows of the pines. His instincts kicked in. With each cautious step, Luke felt the weight of his own past pressing against him, memories of his time as a soldier surfacing unbidden. He moved with purpose, alert to the quiet whispers of the woods, his senses heightened. Behind a large rock formation he found it, a makeshift shelter, a collection of tattered tarps draped over branches, shielding an old sleeping bag and a scattering of newspapers. His heart raced as he approached, driven by a mix of dread and curiosity. What had led someone to call this remote patch of earth home? This was no ordinary discovery. It was the beginning of a story waiting to unfold, a mystery tucked away in the heart of the Montana wilderness, where the rustle of leaves signaled not just nature's breath, but human lives intertwined with shadows. Luke stepped closer to the makeshift shelter, his mind racing with thoughts. What had he stumbled upon? The old sleeping bag lay crumpled and worn, a testament to nights spent under the open sky. Around it, the newspapers whispered silent stories of the world beyond these woods, headlines that spoke of struggles and triumphs, of lives lived in the margins. Each paper was a fragment of time, yellowed and frayed, echoing the voices of those who had fought and fallen. He crouched down, careful not to disturb the fragile setup. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and pine, but there was something else, a faint, acrid smell of smoke lingering in the air, hinting at fires long extinguished. Luke's fingers brushed against a few scattered items, a rusted tin can that had held food at one time, a small stone carving, perhaps a token of comfort for someone seeking solace in nature. Each piece told a story, a narrative of survival that tugged at his heart. But it was the journal that drew him in. Lying open on a crude wooden crate, he pulled it closer, the worn leather cover cool against his skin. The handwriting was shaky, uneven, filled with raw emotion that spilled onto the pages. It felt intimate, as if he were intruding on the thoughts of a soul laid bare. The first few entries told of hope and despair, written in a voice that resonated with Luke's own past. The man had fought in a distant war, a veteran whose dreams had turned to nightmares. Luke's heart sank as he read about the struggle of returning home, the weight of expectations, and the burden of memories that refused to fade. The entries captured moments of clarity and darkness, longing for connection yet feeling the cold grip of isolation. The man had sought solace in these woods, far from the judgmental eyes of society. Luke felt a kinship with this nameless figure, their paths intertwined by shared experiences. He recalled his own battles, both on the field and the internal ones that raged long after the guns fell silent. One entry caught his eye, dated a month prior. The words were frantic, filled with a sense of urgency. "They come back," it read. "The ones who remember me. I can't let them find me here." Luke's breath caught in his throat. Who were the "they" the man feared? The shadows of his past, or perhaps something more tangible, a reminder of the life he had tried to escape. His heart raced as he absorbed the weight of the man's isolation. It was clear this was not just a physical retreat into the woods. It was an emotional sanctuary. Luke couldn't help but think of the countless veterans who faded away after their service, lost in the cracks of a society that often overlooked them. Questions swirled in his mind. Who had this man been before he came to these woods? What had driven him to take refuge among the pines? Putting the journal down, he scanned the area, feeling the weight of unseen eyes. Had someone been here recently? The cooler, the food, it all pointed to a hidden connection, a lifeline thrown into the darkness. Luke's pulse quickened. The tension in his chest grew heavier, an ache that spoke of choices he hadn't yet made. He stepped back, the journal still fresh in his mind. Could he really do this? Could he uncover the truth behind this life hidden in the shadows, or would he disturb a fragile existence better left undisturbed? The wind rustled the leaves overhead, whispering secrets of the forest around him. It felt as though the trees themselves were urging him to act. Luke turned back to the cooler, wondering who had delivered the food. He could imagine a figure cloaked in the safety of anonymity, bringing nourishment and hope to this hidden life. A neighbor, a friend, or perhaps a family member trying to bridge the gap between love and shame. The thought stirred something deep within him. The sun was beginning to dip lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the clearing. Luke felt the pull of the fading light, a reminder that time was slipping away. He had a responsibility, not only as a ranger to protect the land, but as a human being to acknowledge the suffering of others. The decision weighed heavily on him, each possibility unfurling like a path before him. Taking a deep breath, he stepped back into the shelter's shadows. He couldn't ignore the gnawing feeling in his gut. Someone was counting on him to make a choice. He closed his eyes for a moment, the world around him fading into silence. The memories of his own struggles and the faces of those he had lost surged forward. Would he let another slip away, another life forgotten in the silence of the woods? He opened his eyes, steeling himself. "I have to know more," he whispered to himself, feeling the determination build within him. The shadows of the past may have haunted him, but he was here now, standing on the edge of a decision that could change everything. With resolve, he stepped forward, the journal clutched tightly in his hands, a symbol of the lives entwined with his own. He was ready to uncover the mysteries hidden in the depths of the forest, to give voice to the stories waiting to be told. As he ventured deeper into the woods, he knew that this was just the beginning, a journey that would force him to confront not only the shadows surrounding the man in hiding, but also the shadows lingering in his own heart. The forest whispered around him, a promise of connection, and Luke felt a shift within himself, a spark of hope igniting in the dim light of understanding. Determined to learn more, Luke retraced his steps to the cooler. He opened it once more, examining the contents closely. The sandwiches looked freshly made, their edges still crisp, the water bottles untouched. It seemed impossible that someone who had been living in the shadows would have access to such provisions. This was food meant for someone who still had a connection to the outside world, someone who had a person willing to risk exposing their secret. Luke's mind raced with ideas. What if he could find that person? What if he could uncover the truth behind the offerings left in the woods? The thought sent a thrill of excitement through him, mixed with the fear of what he might uncover. He glanced back at the makeshift shelter. The journal held more secrets than just the man's story. It could lead him to the heart of the mystery, a mystery that was now intertwined with his own sense of purpose. Luke knew he had to dig deeper. As he stood there, he noticed an old tree stump nearby, partially obscured by the underbrush. It looked like it had been used as a seat. Curiosity piqued, he made his way over to it. Kneeling down, he brushed away the leaves and twigs, revealing a small carved symbol, a heart with initials inside. It was a simple mark, but it spoke volumes. This was a place of belonging, a secret shared between two people, perhaps a connection that brought comfort amidst the chaos of life. He felt a jolt of recognition. This was not just a story of despair, it was one of love and connection. Luke couldn't help but wonder if the person who left the food had carved this into the stump, a way of marking their presence and their bond with the man in the shelter. The thought filled him with warmth, a flicker of hope amidst the shadows. But the weight of reality pressed upon him. Were their feelings enough to warrant the risk of exposure? The struggle of the man in the woods echoed Luke's own battles. Sometimes the hardest thing to do was to reach out for help, to let someone in. As the sun dipped behind the horizon, casting an orange glow across the sky, Luke felt the coolness of the approaching night. He took one last look at the cooler and the shelter, the journal still heavy in his hand. "This isn't just about one person," he murmured to himself. "It's about a community, about connection. I have to honor that." He decided to leave the journal in the shelter, a gesture of respect for the man's journey. Perhaps in doing so, he would create a bridge that might lead to something greater, a way for the man to be seen, to be remembered, without the fear of judgment. Just before he turned to leave, he caught sight of something out of the corner of his eye, a flash of color among the underbrush. Curious, he approached it cautiously. It was a small flower growing defiantly in the shadow of the trees. Its vibrant petals stood out against the muted greens and browns of the forest floor. This flower, fighting its way to the light, reminded him of the man in the shelter. Despite the darkness that surrounded him, there was still beauty to be found, life that refused to be extinguished. Luke knelt beside the flower, feeling the warmth of its colors seep into his heart. In that moment, he understood the importance of his choice. He had to advocate for those who felt invisible, for those who lived in fear of their stories being uncovered. He took a deep breath, allowing the sights and sounds of the forest to wash over him. The wind rustled the leaves, and the distant call of an owl reminded him that he was not alone. With newfound determination, he made his way back toward the trail, the path illuminated by the soft glow of the fading day. Luke's mind whirred with possibilities as he thought of how to approach the situation. He needed to find the person who had been leaving food, to learn their story, and perhaps together they could find a way to support the man who had taken refuge in the woods. As he walked, he felt the soft crunch of leaves beneath his boots, the sound grounding him in the present. The forest felt alive and vibrant, filled with the unspoken stories of those who had come before him and those who still wandered its depths. Luke was determined to be a part of that narrative, a voice for the voiceless, a beacon of light in the shadows. When he reached his truck parked by the trailhead, Luke took a moment to collect his thoughts. The cool air filled his lungs, and the sky began to darken with stars. He knew he had to act, but the path forward was not clear. He opened the truck door, glancing back at the vast expanse of the forest. The trees stood tall and resolute, witnessing his decision. With a sense of purpose, he climbed into the cab and started the engine. The rumble of the truck felt like a heartbeat, a reminder that life continued beyond the woods. As he drove down the winding road, Luke's thoughts drifted to the man hidden away in the forest. He wouldn't let him be forgotten. The journey ahead would be difficult, but he felt hope blooming within him, much like that small flower he had found. He didn't have all the answers, but he was ready to start asking questions. The path of discovery lay before him, and he would not shy away from it. This was not just about revealing the man's story, it was about forging connections, understanding the complexities of humanity, and embracing the light that emerged from the shadows. As the night settled in, Luke felt a sense of calm wash over him. He would navigate the challenges ahead with courage and compassion, ready to uncover the truth behind the hidden lives that intertwined with his own, and to ensure that no one else had to face their struggles alone. The next morning, Luke awoke with the rising sun, the golden light spilling through the window of his small cabin near the park headquarters. The familiar sounds of the forest filled the air, birds chirping, leaves rustling in the gentle breeze, and the distant sound of a creek bubbling over stones. Yet beneath the comfort of his morning routine, a sense of urgency tugged at him. He could not shake the memory of the journal, the man hiding in the woods, and the mysterious figure who had brought food to him. After a quick breakfast, black coffee and a piece of toast, Luke grabbed his gear and set out for the day. His mind raced with possibilities. He needed to follow the threads of this story further, to uncover the connections that lay hidden beneath the surface. Today, he planned to return to the shelter, not just to investigate, but to reach out. As he drove the winding roads toward the forest, he reflected on the stories he'd uncovered thus far. They weren't just the tales of one man, but rather a tapestry of lives intertwined. Veterans, families, and a community that had perhaps forgotten its own. Luke felt a weight of responsibility, a desire to act not only as a ranger, but as a fellow human being who recognized the struggles of others. Arriving at the trailhead, he took a moment to gather himself. The forest loomed ahead, majestic and imposing, a reminder of nature's beauty and its capacity for solitude. With a deep breath, he secured his gear and set off down the trail toward the makeshift shelter. As he walked, memories surged forward, the stories of the men and women he had known during his service. Many had returned home to find themselves lost, struggling to navigate a world that seemed to have moved on without them. Luke thought about the lonely nights spent in the company of old friends, sharing tales of glory and loss. Those memories were bittersweet, a reminder that while they had survived the battlefield, the fight for connection continued long after they returned home. When he reached the clearing, the sun hung high above, illuminating the area with a warm glow. Luke stepped into the shelter, his heart beating with a mixture of anticipation and trepidation. The journal lay exactly where he had left it, its pages fluttering slightly in the breeze that found its way through the tarps. He knelt beside it, running his fingers over the worn leather cover, feeling the weight of its stories. But today, he needed more than just the journal. He needed to find the person who had been providing for the man hiding in the woods. With a determined resolve, he began to search the area more thoroughly. He examined the clearing, looking for any signs, a footprint, a discarded item, anything that might lead him to the mysterious figure. As he scoured the ground, Luke's thoughts turned to the nature of kindness itself. What compelled someone to offer help in secret? The person who had left the food was clearly aware of the man's situation, yet they chose to remain hidden. Perhaps they were protecting him, or perhaps they shared in his struggle. After a few minutes of searching, he noticed a faint trail leading away from the shelter. It was barely visible, overgrown with grass and wildflowers, but it seemed to curve gently toward the east. Luke felt a surge of hope. Could this be the path the food provider took? With a sense of purpose, Luke followed the trail, pushing through the underbrush as the sounds of the forest enveloped him. The air was cool and crisp, filled with the earthy scent of moss and damp leaves. He listened closely, the rustling of small animals and the distant chirps of birds, weaving a harmonious backdrop to his thoughts. After what felt like an hour of walking, he stumbled upon a small clearing that opened up before him. In the center stood a sturdy old oak tree, its branches sprawling wide, offering a canopy of shade. Scattered around the base of the tree were remnants of a small campsite, an old tent, a few empty food containers, and a pile of firewood neatly stacked. Luke's heart raced. This could be it. This could be the place where the food provider spent time, where they brought supplies to the man in the shelter. He approached the site carefully, scanning the area for any signs of life. The air felt thick with anticipation. As he examined the campsite, he noticed a few items tucked away inside the tent. He crouched down, peering inside. There were more newspapers, similar to those found in the shelter. He reached in and picked one up, reading the headlines. They told of struggles faced by veterans, stories of homelessness, addiction, and resilience. A knot formed in his stomach as he realized that these papers were more than just newsprint. They represented lives, struggles, and the stories that often went untold. Beside the newspapers, he found a small backpack. Opening it carefully, he discovered a few personal belongings, an old jacket, a small first aid kit, and a small notebook. He picked up the notebook, flipping through the pages. They were filled with sketches, drawings of the forest, and notes about the wildlife, as well as thoughts and reflections. The writing was similar in style to the journal he had found in the shelter. It was filled with emotion, a longing for connection, and a deep appreciation for nature. As he took in the contents, he felt a sense of clarity wash over him. This person was not just a stranger. They were a fellow human being, grappling with their own struggles while trying to help another. Luke's heart swelled with recognition. They were both fighting battles in their own ways, stories intertwined by circumstance and choice. Suddenly, a rustling in the underbrush caught his attention. Luke turned quickly, adrenaline surging through him. He called out, "Hello? Is anyone there?" His voice echoed in the clearing, the sound unsettling the peaceful atmosphere. Moments later, a figure emerged from the trees. It was a man, slightly disheveled, with weathered skin and deep-set eyes that spoke of hardship and resilience. He held a small bag of supplies, clearly startled to see Luke standing there. "Who are you?" the man asked, his voice low and cautious, as if weighing the intent behind Luke's presence. "I'm Luke," he replied, trying to keep his tone calm and inviting. "I work as a park ranger. I found a shelter and some food left near here. I'm trying to learn more about it." The man's expression shifted, a mixture of wariness and curiosity. "You shouldn't be here," he said, stepping back slightly as if preparing to retreat into the shadows. "I understand," Luke said quickly, wanting to reassure him. "But I think you're helping someone who needs it." "I want to understand, and maybe I can help too." The man hesitated, his gaze flicking to the ground before meeting Luke's eyes. "Why do you care? This isn't your fight." "It is my fight," Luke replied, his voice firm but gentle. "I've seen too many people slip through the cracks, and I don't want anyone else to feel invisible. You're not alone in this." A long silence stretched between them, the weight of their unspoken experiences hanging in the air. Finally, the man sighed heavily, the tension in his shoulders easing just a fraction. "I'm just trying to do the right thing," he admitted. "His name is Tom. He's been living out here for a while now, and I bring him food when I can." "Why hide?" Luke asked, taking a step closer. "Why not let him know he's not alone?" The man's eyes darkened. "You don't understand. Tom's been through hell. He doesn't want to be found. He's scared, and I can't force him to accept help. I can't risk it." Luke felt a pang of empathy. "I get it," he said, nodding slowly. "But what if you could help him see that he doesn't have to fight alone, that there are people who care?" For a moment, the man's expression softened, his defenses wavering. "I don't know," he said quietly. "It's complicated. He's been abandoned by everyone he thought cared about him. He's convinced that if he's found, they'll drag him back to that life he escaped." Luke could sense the depth of the man's connection to Tom, the compassion wrapped in fear. "What if we could bring him food together?" he suggested tentatively. "What if he saw that you were still there for him? Maybe it would help him feel safe enough to open up." The man looked away, contemplating Luke's words. "I don't want to push him away," he finally said. "I just want to protect him." "I understand," Luke replied, his voice steady. "But think about how much stronger he could be if he knew he had support. You're already doing so much by bringing him food. Let's take it a step further." After another pause, the man nodded slowly, uncertainty still flickering in his eyes. "All right. If you think it might help, I'll give it a try." Luke felt a surge of gratitude. "Thank you," he said earnestly. "Let's go together." As they made their way back toward the shelter, Luke felt hope blooming within him. He wanted to believe that this small act of kindness, this willingness to connect, could make a difference in Tom's life. They reached the shelter, and Luke felt a rush of emotion as he looked at the humble space that had provided comfort for someone in need. With the sun hanging high in the sky, casting dappled patterns on the forest floor, Luke and the man stood together, preparing to bring food to Tom. It was an unfamiliar yet hopeful territory, fraught with uncertainty, but Luke felt the weight of the moment settle over them like a warm blanket. "Just give me a moment," the man said, his voice suddenly heavy with tension. He moved toward the cooler and began to rearrange its contents, making sure everything was neatly in place. Luke watched him, sensing the care that flowed from him, a reflection of the bond he felt toward Tom. Finally, the man took a deep breath, gathering himself. "All right, let's do this," he said, his voice steadying. With a mutual understanding, they made their way toward the path that led deeper into the woods. As they walked, Luke stole glances at his companion, noticing the way the man seemed to hold himself with purpose, as if every step was a step towards something profound. They moved in silence, the forest enveloping them in its embrace. The rustling leaves and distant bird songs filled the air, weaving a backdrop of serenity that contrasted sharply with the gravity of their mission. After several minutes, they approached Tom's shelter, a hidden sanctuary where the shadows intertwined with the light. Luke could feel the tension building in the air, and he shot a glance at the man beside him, who seemed to hesitate at the entrance. "Are you ready?" Luke asked gently, knowing how momentous this moment was for both of them. With a slow nod, the man stepped forward, pushing aside the branches that concealed the entrance. "Tom," he called softly, his voice barely above a whisper. There was a brief stillness, and then a rustling from within the shelter. Luke's heart raced as he waited for a response. Finally, the figure of Tom appeared, his eyes squinting against the light. He looked worn and weary, but there was a spark of recognition in his gaze as he saw the man standing there. "What are you doing here?" Tom's voice was hoarse, tinged with apprehension. "You shouldn't come back." "I brought someone with me," the man replied hesitantly, gesturing toward Luke. "He's a ranger. He wants to help." Tom's eyes narrowed, suspicion flaring momentarily. "I don't need help," he said firmly, crossing his arms defensively. "You don't have to do this alone," Luke interjected, stepping forward to show his presence. "I know life has thrown you some heavy challenges, but I want you to know that you're not forgotten. We're here for you." Tom's expression softened slightly, but the walls he'd built around himself remained intact. "Why do you care?" he asked, his voice quieter now, tinged with vulnerability. "Because I've seen too many people lose their way," Luke replied earnestly. "I know what it feels like to struggle in silence. You don't have to fight this battle on your own. We can find a way to bring you back into the light." A flicker of uncertainty crossed Tom's face, as if he were weighing Luke's words against the pain of his past. The man standing beside Luke shifted, the shared history between them pulsing with unspoken understanding. "Please," the man urged softly, stepping closer to Tom. "Let us help you. You're not just a ghost in these woods. You're a person who deserves to be seen and remembered. You've fought to survive, and now it's time to let someone fight for you." Luke watched as the weight of the moment settled over them, each man grappling with the complexities of vulnerability and trust. Tom stood at a crossroads, his heart on the line. Slowly he looked between them, the struggle etched on his face. I don't know if I can trust anyone anymore," he admitted, tears glistening in his eyes. "That's okay," Luke said gently. "Trust takes time, and we're not asking for all of it at once, just a chance to show you that you're not alone anymore. You have two people standing here, ready to support you." The air was thick with emotion, the weight of their shared silence wrapping around them like an embrace. Tom took a deep breath, the walls he had built around himself beginning to crack. "All right," he said finally, his voice barely above a whisper. "I'll try." Luke felt a sense of relief wash over him, gratitude flooding his heart. "That's all we ask," he said, a smile breaking across his face. "Let's take it one step at a time." As they stood together in the shelter, the atmosphere shifted, infused with the promise of connection. Though the road ahead would be challenging, the flicker of hope ignited a sense of possibility that had long been extinguished. Tom took a tentative step forward, and Luke felt a swell of pride for the courage it took to break the cycle of silence. They were embarking on a journey together, one that would not only change Tom's life, but also redefine the connections between them. The forest felt alive around them, a witness to their shared resolve. The sun shone through the branches, casting rays of light that danced upon the earth, a reminder that there is always light, even in the darkest of places. As they prepared to leave the shelter, Luke felt a profound sense of purpose. They would support Tom, help him find the resources he needed, and show him that there is strength in vulnerability. Together, they would forge a new path, one filled with hope, connection, and the promise of a brighter future. And as they stepped out into the light, Luke knew they were not just embarking on a journey to help one man. They were building a bridge of understanding, a testament to the power of compassion and the human spirit's resilience. As they stepped into the dappled sunlight filtering through the trees, Luke felt a sense of anticipation building within him. The air was alive with the sounds of the forest, each rustle and chirp seeming to echo the promise of connection and hope. Tom, the man who had been living in the woods, walked beside him, his expression a mixture of skepticism and curiosity. The third member of their small group, the man who had been helping Tom, walked silently, his gaze fixed on the ground ahead. "Where do we start?" Tom asked, his voice barely above a whisper as they began to walk down the narrow path leading away from the shelter. Luke could sense the weight of unspoken fears lingering in the air, but he also felt a flicker of determination igniting within Tom. It was a small step, but it was a step forward, nonetheless. "We'll take it slow," Luke replied, glancing at Tom. I know a few resources nearby that can help. You don't have to decide everything today. Just take it one moment at a time." Tom nodded but remained silent. The tension in his shoulders was palpable, showing how much he was wrestling with the idea of accepting help. Luke understood that this was a monumental shift for him, a leap from isolation to connection, and it would take time for Tom to adjust and trust that support was available. As they walked through the forest, Luke began to share stories of other veterans he had encountered over the years. He spoke of those who had found their way back to society after grappling with the demons of their past, and how they had learned to lean on one another to navigate the challenges of reintegration. "There was a guy named Jake I met," he said, glancing at Tom to gauge his reaction. "He lived in his truck for months after coming back. He was ashamed, but he reached out to a local veterans group. They helped him find a place to stay, and even assisted him with job training. Now he runs a workshop for other veterans." Tom listened, the tension in his body easing just a fraction. "That sounds good," he said quietly, allowing a hint of curiosity to seep into his tone. "But what if I don't fit in? What if they tell me to just get over it?" "They won't," Luke assured him. "Everyone there has walked a similar path. They understand that it's not about getting over it. It's about learning to live with it, finding a way to carry the weight without letting it crush you." The man walking beside them glanced over, his expression softening as he heard Luke's words. "It's true," he added. "When I first started coming here, I was terrified. But the folks there, they listened, and they didn't judge. That made a world of difference." Tom's eyes flickered with uncertainty, but he remained silent, pondering Luke's words. They continued walking, the sun slowly sinking lower in the sky, casting long shadows that danced among the trees. The forest felt like a safe haven, a place where they could explore the depths of raw emotion and vulnerability without the harsh scrutiny of the outside world. As they approached a small clearing, Luke pointed to a well-trodden path that branched off to the right. "That leads to a community center. They have various programs for veterans, from therapy to job placement. It's a good place to start if you're open to it." Tom looked at the path, then back at Luke, a mixture of hope and trepidation in his eyes. "I don't know," he said, his voice trembling slightly. "What if I can't handle it? What if they see me as broken?" "None of us are broken," Luke replied firmly, a deep conviction in his voice. "We're all just learning to navigate the scars life leaves behind. You're not alone in this. You have people who care." For the first time, Luke saw a flicker of resolve in Tom's eyes. "Okay," he said slowly. "I'll give it a try, but just don't expect miracles." "No miracles needed," Luke said with a smile, "just one foot in front of the other." As they stepped onto the path leading to the community center, the atmosphere shifted. The air seemed to hum with possibility, filled with the promise of new beginnings. Luke felt a renewed sense of purpose as they approached the building, a modest structure nestled among the trees, its welcoming facade adorned with colorful murals depicting scenes of unity and strength. Inside, the community center buzzed with life. Veterans of all backgrounds shared stories, laughter, and support. Luke felt a warmth envelop him as he entered the space, recognizing the transformative power of community. He glanced at Tom, who appeared to be taking it all in, a mix of curiosity and guarded apprehension etched on his face. "Just remember, you don't have to share anything you're not ready to," Luke said gently, guiding Tom to a cozy corner filled with chairs where a small group was gathering. "Just be yourself." Tom nodded, but remained quiet, his gaze drifting around the room as they settled into their seats. Luke exchanged glances with the man who had been helping Tom, who offered a reassuring smile. As the meeting began, the room filled with stories of struggle, resilience, and hope. One by one, veterans shared their experiences. Some spoke of the battles they faced during their service, others of the challenges of reintegration. The air crackled with vulnerability and strength, creating an environment where everyone felt seen and heard. Tom listened intently, his expression shifting as he absorbed the stories unfolding around him. Luke watched as the tension in Tom's shoulders began to ease, his body slowly relaxing in the warmth of shared experiences. When it was Tom's turn to speak, he hesitated, glancing down at his hands, unsure of how to articulate the weight he carried. But something shifted within him, and with a deep breath he began to share a few fragments of his story, the isolation, the struggle to find purpose, and the fear of being forgotten. "I thought I could handle it on my own," he admitted, his voice wavering slightly. "But being out here, it feels like I'm living in a shadow. I don't want to go back to that life where no one sees me." A hush fell over the room as the others listened intently, nodding in understanding. In that moment, Tom's vulnerability became a powerful bridge, connecting him with others who had walked similar paths. Luke felt pride swell in his chest as he recognized the courage it took for Tom to share his truth. After Tom finished speaking, a warm round of applause erupted, filling the space with encouragement. A veteran named Mia, with a kind smile and a gentle demeanor, approached Tom. "Thank you for sharing your story," she said softly. "It takes a lot of courage to open up. You're not alone anymore. We're here for you." The connection in the room was palpable, and Luke could see hope flickering in Tom's eyes. It was as if a small weight had been lifted, the first step toward healing beginning to unfold. The gathering continued, filled with laughter and camaraderie. Luke noticed Tom laughing at a shared joke and leaning into the conversation, his guarded demeanor beginning to fade. With each passing moment, the walls he had built around himself seemed to crumble, revealing the man beneath, a man who yearned for connection and understanding. As they wrapped up the meeting, Luke felt a sense of accomplishment. They had taken a significant step, not just for Tom, but for all involved. The bonds formed in that community center would carry them forward, creating a network of support and resilience. Afterward, as they stepped outside, the evening air was cool and refreshing. The sun dipped low on the horizon, casting a golden hue across the sky. Luke turned to Tom, who wore a tentative smile. "How do you feel?" Luke asked, genuinely curious. I didn't expect it to feel like this," Tom admitted, glancing around the forest that had once felt so isolating. "It's almost like I can breathe again. I didn't think I'd find anyone who gets it." "You're not alone anymore," Luke said firmly. "You have friends now, and you can lean on us when you need to." Tom nodded, his expression shifting from uncertainty to gratitude. "Thank you for not giving up on me." Luke smiled, feeling a swell of joy within him. "It's my honor to walk alongside you." As they made their way back to the trail, Luke felt a renewed sense of purpose. This was just the beginning of a journey that would unfold in layers, revealing the strength of human connection. They had forged a bond, one that would carry them through the challenges ahead. With each step, they left behind the shadows of isolation and stepped into a future filled with hope. The forest echoed with the promise of new beginnings, and Luke knew that together they would continue to uncover the beauty of resilience and the power of community. As the last light of day faded behind the mountains, Luke felt a deep sense of fulfillment. They had taken a significant step, and the path ahead was filled with potential, an adventure of healing, connection, and the discovery of what it truly means to be seen and valued. As the evening settled in, Luke, Mark, and Tom walked back along the familiar path leading to the shelter. The forest around them was transitioning into twilight, the trees casting long shadows as the air cooled. Tom walked alongside his companions, a newfound lightness in his step. For the first time in a long while, he felt part of something larger than himself. "Thank you for today," Tom said quietly, glancing sideways at Luke. "I didn't think I could talk about any of that. It felt, good to share." Luke smiled warmly. "It's a big step, Tom. Sharing is how we connect and heal. We're all in this together." Tom nodded slowly, processing the truth of those words. The fear that had gripped him for so long was beginning to untangle, replaced by a flicker of hope. He still had a long way to go, but today felt like a turning point. For the first time, he allowed himself to envision a life beyond the shadows. As they approached the shelter, Luke noticed Mark looking a bit apprehensive. "Everything okay?" Luke asked. Mark sighed. "I just hope I did the right thing by bringing him here. It's one thing to offer help, it's another to make sure it sticks. What if he changes his mind?" Luke placed a reassuring hand on Mark's shoulder. "You've already made a difference just by being here for him. It's going to take time, but you've shown him that he's not alone anymore. That's huge." "Yeah," Mark replied, a flicker of gratitude crossing his features. "I just worry about him slipping back into those old habits." "We'll be there to catch him if he falls," Luke assured him. "It's about having a support system, and that's what we're building." As they settled back at the shelter, Tom felt the warmth of the fire crackle to life as Mark gathered some firewood. The flames danced in the cool night air, casting flickering shadows across the trees. It felt like a safe haven, a place where they could exist without judgment. Luke broke the silence, leaning back against a log. "So, what do you think? Are you ready to explore more of what the community can offer?" Tom hesitated, his brow furrowing. "I want to, but what if I mess it up?" "Everyone feels that way at first," Luke replied. "Take your time. The more you engage, the more you'll see that everyone is there for the same reason, to support each other." Tom considered their words, feeling the warmth of the fire against his skin. "Okay," he finally said, determination creeping into his voice. "I'll give it a shot." "That's the spirit," Luke encouraged, one step at a time. As they sat around the fire, the conversation flowed. They shared stories of their lives, their struggles, and the small victories that had brought them to this moment. With each story shared, Tom felt a weight lift off his shoulders, replaced by a growing sense of connection. After a while, Tom started to open up about his past, the joys and sorrows. Each word felt like a release, and he realized he was not alone. "After I got back from the war, I thought I could just pick up where I left off," Tom admitted, looking into the flames. "But it wasn't that easy. I felt lost. I thought I could handle it on my own, but it just made everything worse." Mark listened, nodding. "I get it. I thought I could tough it out too, but that kind of thinking only pushed me away further into isolation." "It takes strength to admit that you need help," Luke said. "The fact that you're here, talking about it, that's a victory in itself." As the fire crackled, Tom felt the warmth of their understanding. It was a feeling he hadn't experienced in a long time, like being wrapped in a blanket of acceptance. Eventually, as the stars began to pepper the night sky, Tom felt a sense of peace settling over him. The shadows that had once felt suffocating were beginning to recede, replaced by the light of connection and community. "Thank you for tonight," he said quietly. "It feels good to talk, to be heard." "Any time," Luke replied. "We're in this together, remember?" As they settled down for the night, Tom wrapped himself in a blanket, gazing up at the stars twinkling overhead. The vastness of the sky felt reassuring, a reminder that he was part of something much larger. For the first time, he allowed himself to dream of a life where he could find purpose, belonging, and acceptance. The next morning, the sun rose with renewed promise. As light filtered through the trees, Tom awoke to the sounds of birds singing and the smell of coffee brewing. He blinked against the morning light, feeling a sense of clarity and purpose that had been absent for far too long. He joined Luke and Mark by the fire, both already awake and engaged in conversation. "Morning!" Luke greeted, his voice bright. "Ready for a new day?" Tom nodded, a smile breaking across his face. "I think so. I really do." As they settled into breakfast, Tom felt a sense of belonging growing inside him. The shadows of his past were still there, but they were starting to feel more manageable. With each day, he felt the weight of isolation lifting, replaced by the warmth of friendship and support. In the days that followed, Tom became more engaged with the community center and the veterans group. With Luke and Mark by his side, he attended meetings, shared experiences, and listened to others. Each interaction brought new connections and a deepening sense of purpose. Luke watched as Tom blossomed, his confidence growing with each shared experience. The walls he had built around himself began to crumble, revealing a man ready to embrace life again. It wasn't always easy, but with the support of his friends, Tom learned to navigate the complexities of healing. One afternoon, while they were out on a hike, Tom found himself at the edge of a breathtaking overlook. The view stretched endlessly before him, rolling hills, lush forests, and the river winding through the valley. It was a beautiful sight, and for the first time in a long time, Tom felt a sense of hope rising within him. "This is amazing," he said, taking a deep breath of the fresh air. "I never would have had the courage to do this on my own." "You've come a long way," Luke said, standing beside him. "And you did it with the help of your friends. Remember, you're not alone anymore." Tom looked over at Luke, gratitude in his eyes. "Thank you for believing in me." As they stood together, overlooking the beauty of the world, Tom felt a shift inside him. He was no longer the man who had hidden in the shadows. He was stepping into the light, ready to embrace the future that awaited him. With each passing day, Tom felt the weight of his past growing lighter, replaced by a sense of purpose and community. The journey was far from over, but together they would continue to forge a path filled with hope, connection, and the promise of a brighter tomorrow. The days turned into weeks, and the transformation in Tom was palpable. With each passing moment, he grew more comfortable in his new reality, surrounded by friends who genuinely cared. The fear that had once dominated his life began to fade, replaced by a sense of purpose and belonging. Luke and Mark remained by his side, encouraging him every step of the way. One crisp morning, as the sun began to rise, Tom stood at the edge of the forest, looking out at the landscape that had once felt so isolating. The colors of the dawn painted the sky in hues of pink and orange, a breathtaking reminder of the beauty in the world. He took a deep breath, savoring the freshness of the air, and marveled at how much had changed in such a short time. "Are you ready for today?" Luke called out from behind him, breaking Tom's reverie. "Yeah," Tom replied, excitement bubbling within him. "I think I am." Today was a pivotal moment. He would be attending a community event at the center, a gathering where veterans could share their stories and experiences in a more casual setting. Luke and Mark had both assured him that it would be a good opportunity to connect with others, and for Tom, it felt like a chance to truly step into his new life. As they arrived at the community center, the atmosphere buzzed with energy. The sounds of laughter and friendly chatter filled the air, mingling with the aroma of food being prepared in the kitchen. Colorful banners decorated the walls, each representing various programs and resources available to veterans and their families. Luke placed a reassuring hand on Tom's back as they entered. Just be yourself. Remember, everyone here has faced their own battles. Tom nodded, though a hint of nervousness still lingered. As they walked further into the space, he spotted several familiar faces from the veterans group. It was comforting to know he wasn't alone in this journey. "Hey, Tom," Mia called out as she approached, a warm smile illuminating her face. "Glad to see you here. Are you excited?" "Yeah, I think so," he said, feeling a mix of anticipation and anxiety. "I'm still getting used to all this." "You're doing great," Mia encouraged. "Just take it one step at a time." As the event kicked off, Tom found himself engaged in conversations with others who understood his struggles. Veterans shared their stories, some recounting the challenges they faced while adjusting to life after service, while others spoke of their triumphs. The sense of camaraderie was palpable, each person's experiences weaving a rich tapestry of resilience and support. Luke stood nearby, watching Tom interact with others. He could see the walls that had once surrounded Tom slowly coming down. Each laugh, each shared story, and each moment of vulnerability brought him closer to the realization that he was not alone in this journey. At one point, Tom found himself in a discussion with a veteran named Derek, who spoke candidly about the difficulties he faced after returning home. "I thought I could just forget about everything," Derek admitted, his voice filled with emotion. "But you can't outrun your past. You have to confront it." Tom nodded, feeling a deep connection to Derek's words. "I've been trying to do that," he confessed. "It's hard to share what you've been through. It feels safer to hide it away." "It's okay to feel that way," Derek replied. "But I've learned that sharing your story can be incredibly freeing. It's how we heal." Inspired by Derek's openness, Tom felt a surge of courage. "I've been living in the woods trying to cope on my own," he admitted. "But being here, listening to all of you, it's made me see that I don't have to go through this alone." Derek smiled, clearly moved by Tom's honesty. "That's exactly it. We're all in this together. You're a part of this community now." As the event progressed, Tom's confidence continued to grow. He began to share snippets of his own story, recounting the feelings of isolation he had faced, the battles within his mind, and the small victories that had brought him to this point. Each word felt like a release, a testament to his journey toward healing. The event culminated in a group activity where veterans were encouraged to write down their hopes and dreams on colorful paper lanterns. Tom took a marker and wrote down his wish: "To find my place in the world again." As they lit the lanterns and released them into the night sky, Tom felt a wave of emotion wash over him. The lanterns floated upward, carrying with them the hopes and dreams of all the veterans present. In that moment, beneath the starlit sky, Tom felt the weight of his fears begin to lift, replaced by the light of hope and connection. "Look at them go," Luke said, standing beside Tom. "It's beautiful." "Yeah," Tom replied, his eyes fixed on the glowing lights. "It really is." As the last lantern disappeared into the night, Tom felt a profound sense of belonging. He understood now that the journey ahead would not be without challenges, but with the support of Luke, Mark, and the community, he was ready to face whatever came next. "Thank you for bringing me here," Tom said, turning to Luke. "I never would have imagined feeling this way again." Luke smiled, pride evident in his gaze. "You did this, Tom. You took the steps. We just walked beside you." With renewed purpose, Tom looked out at the open sky, feeling the possibilities stretching out before him. He was ready to embrace the future, step into the light, and finally live again, knowing he wasn't alone on this journey. As the weeks passed, Tom settled into a fulfilling routine with Luke and Mark by his side. They frequented the community center, participating in workshops and outdoor activities that fostered camaraderie among veterans. Each day brought new opportunities for connection and healing. One sunny afternoon, the three friends sat around a picnic table outside the center, sharing lunch. Laughter filled the air as they swapped stories about their pasts and their aspirations for the future. "I never thought I'd find people who truly understood what I was going through," Tom said, a genuine smile breaking across his face. "It's like a weight has been lifted." Mark nodded in agreement. "We all have our battles, but sharing them makes it feel less lonely." "It's about supporting one another." "That's right," Luke added. "And look at how far you've come. You've embraced this community, and that's a huge achievement." Tom felt a swell of gratitude. "I honestly couldn't have done this without you guys. You've shown me it's okay to ask for help." Mark clapped Tom on the back. "That's what friends are for. We're in this together." Suddenly, Luke's eyes lit up with an idea. "There's an upcoming retreat in the mountains for veterans, a weekend of hiking and bonding. I think it would be a great experience for you, Tom. What do you think?" A mix of excitement and apprehension bubbled within Tom. The thought of a weekend in nature with fellow veterans thrilled him, but he couldn't shake the fear of feeling overwhelmed. "I'd love to go, but what if I can't keep up?" he confessed. "Everyone will support each other," Luke reassured him. "This is a chance for you to connect with others and experience the healing power of nature." Mark leaned in, sincere. "It's okay to feel nervous. Just take things at your own pace and we'll be right there with you." After a moment, Tom took a deep breath, feeling their encouragement bolster his resolve. "Okay, I'll do it," he said, determination rising within him. "I'll join the retreat." "Awesome!" Luke exclaimed, his grin widening. "It's going to be an incredible experience." As the retreat day approached, Tom felt a swirl of anticipation and anxiety. He reminded himself he wasn't alone, and each step away from isolation was a step toward healing. The day finally arrived, and the trio set off early in the morning. The drive took them through winding roads flanked by towering trees and majestic mountains. Upon arrival, they were greeted by warm faces eager to connect and share their stories. As twilight settled and stars began to twinkle overhead, Tom found himself gathered around a campfire with other veterans. The crackling flames illuminated their faces, creating a sense of belonging. In that moment, Tom felt a profound gratitude. He was no longer the man hiding in the shadows. He was part of a community bound by shared experiences and the determination to heal. As the fire burned brightly, Tom realized he was ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. The journey was just beginning, and with each moment spent surrounded by friends, he felt empowered to step into the light and reclaim his life.